Hey folks, welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that has nothing to do with homesteading whatsoever, homesteading off the grid. It is official, it's official, they're hiding the truth. How so? Well, they've been hiding the truth forever, yes, but they're hiding which truths now? Your truths, your personal experiences with not just paranormal and cryptids, but now UFOs, aliens, alien abductions, orbs, all these things from here on this channel. For about 10 days or so now, since I shared an experience that my wife and I had together, and then one that I had a couple of weeks later, experiences with orbs in the sky that made both of us very ill when it happened to us jointly, and then myself ill again when it happened to myself singularly. People have come out of the woodworks with their stories. We've been receiving 200 plus emails daily now. We've been coming onto the channel here, sharing these stories. I've chosen to be your voice because you've been ridiculed, you've been heckled, they've called you crazy. I'm sharing your stories, and since that started, we've gotten 2.6 million views just in 10 days. We're averaging over 250,000 views a day. But just in the last 24 hours, everything's gone silent. Yeah, the stories aren't, well, what's going on? What's going on? People aren't being notified. People who have subscribed to the channel and hit the bell are not being notified when the new videos, which showcase your stories, read word for word as you've written them, are told. People who have subscribed, and in the last month, there's been more than 50,000 new subscribers to this channel. They're being unsubscribed. And you don't have to take my word for it. Read through the comment section. The people are saying, oh my gosh, I keep wanting to watch your channel because I've been binge watching the last couple of weeks, but every time I get back onto YouTube, they're reporting that these videos have been erased from their history. It's taking them a while to remember the name of the channel to be able to find it. Now, why is this? I'm going to tell you exactly why, and then I'm going to read you more of your stories, and I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to do about this to get every single one of these stories out there so other folks can read them. Here's what's going on as I see it, and I lost half of my new audience when I said this. So right now, people are seeing these orbs, they're seeing these plasmoids. There's so many reports of people becoming near deathly ill for 3 days after having seen these things, and this happened to me twice and my wife once. But then on the 4th day, everybody seems to have miraculous recoveries and everything's okay. So the going theory is, and this is the theory being promoted by certain folks who with each passing day I'm starting to think less and less of, because I've found out through further research a lot of these folks have been promoting these theories for decades. And then when their nothing burgers happen, because that's all these things are, the people who put their faith in them and who shared their stories with them yet again are discredited, even more so than they have been before. So the theory now is there's going to be this big reveal, and it's going to lead to this big false flag event so that the current administration, the powers that be, can implement martial law to make sure that the peaceful transition of power into the next administration doesn't take place. I'm calling it. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's the build up to that false flag that is the false flag. And here's why. And I'm saying it like it is. And that's why we've gone from 250,000 views a day to practically nothing. That's why you're not getting notified. It's why we're being suppressed. Because since this build up has begun, everybody thinks it's coming. There are people who have had extraterrestrial experiences who have kept their mouths shut for their lifetimes. We've got folks in their 70s sharing their stories with us in this channel, in this platform, for the first time because they never felt safe sharing their stories until now because they're believing the hype. So all these folks are coming out of the woodwork sharing their true experiences that I wholeheartedly believe they had, and they're being set up to look like fools. Because when this not black flag, but when this false flag event does not happen, the powers that be once again will say, see, we told you, you can trust us. You can put your faith and belief in us because we will keep you safe. All these people that said this was going to happen, wow, they're just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It didn't happen. Well, they're just nutcases. Stay as far away from those folks as you can. It's going to happen again. It's to discredit those of us. I put myself in that category due to my orb experience. It's to discredit us yet again. And I'm out here telling you exactly what's going to happen. As of this recording, it's 30th of December. We've got about 21 days, 3 weeks before the next inauguration. Nothing's going to happen. They don't want people knowing that I'm here to be your voice. Because what they want is that once nothing happens, they want you to be completely 100% discredited again. Our masters are never going to reveal to us these truths that I know, that those of you who have had these experiences know, and that even some of these talking heads do know. I'm starting to wonder just who they're working for, if you're picking up what I'm laying down. But I'm going to get to the stories now. I'm going to read you word for word the stories that you folks have sent in, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do about this explicitly and in detail, aside from just sharing these stories on this platform. Okay? Our first story comes to us from, yet again, South Carolina. There's been so many stories. You're hearing all about New Jersey, but just in the last few days, we've been getting so many stories out of South Carolina. So let me read you this one. This is from somebody who wishes to remain anonymous and simply go by Anna. Anna writes, I live in South Carolina, and I left home early one morning about 14 years ago around 4:30 a.m. I could see the moon on my right as I merged on I-20 West in Florence, South Carolina. I've been through there. Last spring, my family and I went down to Savannah, Georgia during spring break. We passed right through here. After traveling about 2 miles, I noticed a very large moon that was iridescent on my left. I thought it was strange as it was much larger than the moon that I had seen a few minutes earlier. And remember, folks, there's only one moon. I looked on our planet, or that goes around our planet. I looked in my right side mirror, and sure enough, I could see the real moon off to the right, and then almost as if waiting for a reaction, the giant orb that I thought was the moon zipped across in front of my car and went far away. It looked like a pinpoint, then immediately came back to my left. This happened the whole 25 minutes drive to work. While this was happening, my sister called me on my cell phone. She asked if I was already driving to work, and she told me that she was seeing a large iridescent orb hovering over the vacant house by her house, maybe 15 miles away from my location. She had opened her back door and noticed it. We were really surprised that it went from sister to sister like it knew we were connected. It would hover, then zip away, then come back and hover again. As I entered the parking lot at my job, I could see military helicopters in the westward sky. Fort Sumter is nearby. If you remember your history, that's where the first shot of the Civil War was fired. And the orb was in the middle of these helicopters as if they were trying to surround it. It then zipped from there to a pinpoint away, then would get in the middle of the helicopters again. It did this about 3 times, then it just didn't return. Neither my sister or I had previous experiences of this nature before this. However, since then I have had several sightings, including on May the 4th, 2023, when I saw and tried to film a gigantic black triangle with an eerie red light on each point. This was also witnessed by a vehicle that was in front of mine as I drove up onto the overpass of I-95 in Florence. It was well above the tree line, however, it was so large you couldn't miss it. I thought mothership as soon as I saw it. It traveled fairly quickly eastwards, but within full view until it entered into a large cloud and disappeared. It could have fit 2 or 3 commercial aircraft in it. I have seen stealth before, but this was exponentially larger and not really like a craft with wings, just a giant flat triangle with eerie red lights on the tips. So there you go. And folks, again, just a couple of housekeeping things before I move on to the second story. Another person who wants to remain anonymous, email me at crazylake@mail.com. Or you can share your experiences in the comment section of the videos, but I'm more likely to actually see them if you send the email. Again, respect boundaries, respect my family and my privacy. I don't want your phone numbers. I'm not going to call you. You're not coming to see me here, and I'm not going to go see you at your home, and we're not going to meet up anywhere, okay? We need to keep this professional so these stories get out, and we need to respect boundaries. Now, with that said, let's move on to number 2 for the day. Hi, Kevin. I better stay anonymous for apparent reasons. You can call me Gold Knight if you want. I'll call you Gold Knight then. In 1978 or 79, when I was 6 or 7, so we're close to the same age. I was born in 73. I had an experience where I was asleep, but I sensed or maybe even saw about 6 beings in a semicircle around the head of my bed doing something with my head. They looked human, but old because of how white their hair looked. One of them caught on that I had awareness, telepathically informed the others, and did something with my ears or the side of my head that caused me to lose awareness until I woke up freaked out in the dark hours of the morning. And we've talked a lot about sleep paralysis. That seems to be a common theme. It's not mentioned here, but could sleep paralysis potentially be related to these experiences? I went to our front door and surveyed outside all around, but came back inside to have the living crap scared out of me by a white shape in our hallway. It was my dad coming out in his white t-shirt. I've often wondered if he knew more about this incident. He was a National Guardsman who went to summer camps in places like Dugway Proving Grounds, sometimes referred to as Area 52. These orange orbs scattered among the massive drones we've been seeing, and this is what's making headline news on all legacy media outlets right now. And those outlets are usually fighting with each other, calling each other liars, but they're all reporting this stuff now. So all this stuff we're seeing now, I interacted with one of them south of us toward Cottonwood in 1990 when I was 19 years old with friends on Schnebley Hill in Sedona, Arizona. It could either hear me or it was telepathic. I told it to get bigger, and it did. Eventually, it started moving left towards a utility pole, and I remarked to my friends how it was going out of sight behind it. Nope. Smart Aleck blinked out completely right before they would have gone behind the pole as we expected. They showed us. Do ETs have a sense of humor? Maybe. Thanks for being the voice for the common cuckoos. Hey, you're welcome, Golden Knight. Now listen, there's somebody here I want to address. Her name is Darla. Darla, I hope you're watching this video because you have sent me multiple stories, 3 in total, a couple of times. You've tried to shorten them. They're still kind of lengthy for this platform. But this is where I'm going to tell you exactly how we're getting all of these stories out, how we're going to do it, despite being suppressed, despite you folks not being notified, despite many of you being unsubscribed, and despite having many of my videos erased for some reason from your history. I have received, because I've been copying and pasting these things, as you know, most of the time I print them off and read them, but I'm waiting on printer ink. Should be here today, so I'm reading right off of my laptop. Look, full disclosure, see? Ta-da! And yes, of course, I keep a Band-Aid over my camera and I keep the microphone stuffed. Listen, I've been working in social media for 15 years, and if you knew what I knew about technology, and my knowledge truly is limited in comparison to a lot of folks. I'll give you an example. My son's almost 14. He does not have any social media accounts. He is not allowed on Facebook. He's not allowed on TikTok. Let me tell you, it's frightening when you know what's going on. But here's what we're doing. So I'm copying and pasting all these emails, and a lot of the comments we're picking up from the comment section of these videos. I have approximately 300,000 words worth of stories you folks have sent in just in the last approximately 10 days. How much is 300,000 words? Well, when I bring these stories out, I bring between 2,000 and 3,000 words. And it's typically anywhere from 6 to a dozen stories, depending upon the varying length of the stories. But let's just look at the numbers. 2,000 to 3,000 words versus 300,000. So like I mentioned when I made a video yesterday, for every story I tell, there's 10 more that have come in that I can't because I simply don't have the time to do it. And I've been making 2 videos a day. I've been working 8 to 12 hours a day for the first time since I left the post office in 2018. That's 6 years ago. I can't keep this pace up, but I refuse to allow these stories, your stories to go untold. So let me tell you what I'm doing about it. And this was an idea. I can't believe I didn't see it until dozens of you, longtime viewers, have emailed me or put this in the comments section. And I was like, that's it. Why don't I do it? So what is it I'm talking about? Again, about 50,000 of you, if you haven't been unsubscribed yet, have only been following me for the last, not just the last month, but really the last 10 days. Starting a few years ago, I began a series called True Hauntings, and it deals with personal stories of real experiences with the paranormal, supernatural, cryptids, aliens, and UFOs. Because we had so many stories at the time, I couldn't get to all those either. These volumes are 40,000 plus words long. That's full-length volume, okay? Full-length novel length. A novel is 40,000 words plus. We've had 5 of these so far, and I only brought... they're available on Amazon and print and Kindle. I have limited copies, a limited number of copies left on our Etsy store, and the link is in the description box below. And if you order them from Etsy, I actually do autograph them and then ship them out to you personally. Thought I was out of volume 1. I was close. This one's spoken for. I only have 1 left, but I do have some of the other volumes. I'm taking, and I've been in touch with Lady Erie. She's my co-editor. She's all for it. We're editing your stories, not changing your words, simply making them readable, making sure the punctuation's correct. But we're putting them together, and we're issuing more volumes of the True Hauntings. And the stories mostly will have to do with alien abductions, UFOs, these new orbs and whatnot. So, and FYI, and listen, when these do come out, and we may have the volume 6, which will be the first of the new series, is out by the end of the week, they're only going to be available on Amazon because I don't have the time to sign books and stuff envelopes and continue to do what I do here, as well as live my life outside of social media and writing. We do still have, by the way, you cannot get this on Amazon. This is only available on our Etsy channel. This is the Bigfoot Sasquatch Files volumes 1 through 10. It's called Anthology 1. Over 800 pages. This is the largest single collection of real Bigfoot Sasquatch encounters written and compiled in the English language. Yeah, I broke another world record when I wrote this book. I basically put volumes 1 through 10 together. But anyway, listen, I'm not going to have them available, the new ones at print on our Etsy store. You're going to have to get them on Amazon. For example, yesterday on Amazon, we sold 142 books. If I were to autograph and stuff envelopes for 142 books, that would take me all day. And full disclosure, I make approximately $2 per book. And I'm not trying to sound like a used auto ship dealership owner when I say, folks, I'm losing money. But I am. Okay, so $2 times 142 is what? $284. Put a 0 behind that, and you still don't get to how much I generate in revenues on social media on a daily basis. And folks, I'm not bragging. I'm just being honest. I can afford to put the things together. I can take that hit for the loss of my time, but I can't. I'm not going to have them available on Etsy and print. So you will have to go to Amazon, but I will let you know when that happens. But Darla, you and dozens of other folks like yourself have these thousands of words long stories of multiple experiences. I don't know how you'd boil it down to get it underneath 1,000 words, so they're going to go into those volumes. Okay, so folks, continue to send me your emails. These stories will get out. And you need to spread the word that they're trying to suppress us, because that's exactly what's going on. Now, with all that said, let's get on to the next story. Hello, Kevin. I want to thank you so much for sharing our stories. Please don't share my screen name, but you can call me Lynn. Okay, so this is Lynn. I have never shared this story with anyone except my mom, sister, and son, none of whom wanted to hear it or have conversations about it, even though they never ridiculed me. From here on out, my story is 845 words. Lynn, thank you for trying to meet that criteria, and you did it. Thank you. I suppose the most dramatic experience with missing time I ever had was a time in 1977 when I made a trip to see my stepbrother in Austin. And folks, this is a good story. Please pay very close attention to this one. I lived 350 miles away in West Texas, where we grew up, and my mom let me borrow her brand new lemon yellow Volkswagen Bug for my trip. It was my very first paid vacation. On the third night in Austin, myself, my stepbrother, and his wife, and a couple of other people went to Austin's beautiful Zilker Park to watch a partial lunar eclipse. We were laying on blankets on the grass watching the eclipse, and during the beginning of the period of maximum eclipse, and from a crystal clear night sky, suddenly clouds began forming in a ring-like manner from all directions, building up and forming a boiling circle of clouds around the moon. Suddenly, coming from the ring in the clouds, an intense, blinding bright light lit the area up like daylight, and we all stood up. And something which seemed at first like a weather event happened, where suddenly chaos broke out like a tornado, but with no actual wind. In retrospect, I know that in actuality, something electromagnetic happened. This sudden chaos caused myself, my stepbrother, and his wife to run for my car. The last thing I remember was the three of us sitting in the car looking out at all the chaos around us. Now, folks, if that's not creepy enough, here's where it gets uber creepy. And the next memory I have was my stepbrother and I sitting facing each other on the stripe in the middle of a deserted 2-lane country road on a hill about 15 miles southeast of Austin. At that point, it was just the two of us. His wife was not there. We didn't discuss what was happening. We just got up and walked to my car, which was parked off the shoulder about 50 yards down the road, and drove in complete silence, except for him telling me where to turn, etc., back into Austin and to his home. I remember nothing about the drive home except that there was no traffic on this road whatsoever. I remember nothing about getting to his house or anything about the rest of the night, and my memory of the rest of the week spent with him is just bits and pieces. I never made another trip to see him in Austin, and although we had several visits over the next 2 years when he would take trips home to see me, we never discussed what happened. Now, folks, it's getting ready to take an even sharper turn to the super creepy. 10 years later, after I'd moved out of state for several years and then had moved back home in 1985, I made plans to make a trip to Austin to see my stepbrother. I had not seen him for 6 years, though we had spoken on the phone a couple of times while I was out of state. During the making of the travel plans, I told him on the phone that I needed to discuss with him what happened on the night of the eclipse. He expressed that he, too, wanted very much to discuss it, and we were both excited about the prospect of seeing each other again and talking about what happened. The plans were made for the following month. 2 weeks later, he was killed when his motorcycle went out of control on his way home from work. Lynn, I'm so sorry for your loss. 2 years later, after corresponding with his wife, she and I had begun making plans for me to go to Austin to see her. She had told me that my stepbrother had written many things over the years that I lived out of state, and that in the 2 weeks before he died, he had gone into a writing and drawing frenzy. She said he had wanted me to have copies of all that he had written and also some of the artwork he had done over the years. She said that he had been so eager to discuss with me what had happened to us. But before my plans to go see her were formulated, she died while participating in a Native American cleansing ceremony by herself in a makeshift sweat lodge. She and my stepbrother had been participating in these ceremonies for over 10 years. The newspaper article about her death reported that her friends in Austin had said that the night of her death was the only time she had ever done this cleansing ritual alone, without at least one other person there. These are just 2 examples of unexplained or mysterious deaths of people I was close to and shared anomalous experiences with, whose deaths occurred just when plans were made to discuss things that had happened to us. Thank you again for reading and sharing my experience, Lynn. So, folks, here I am talking about this platform suppressing our views. Who or what might be requesting the platform suppress the views? Is the platform itself being suppressed? After hearing that story, you have to ask yourself, what's going on? All right, I think this is the last one, and this is an example of why I'm glad I'm doing this too, folks. Send me your stories, okay? 76-year-old woman She says, I'm a 76-year-old woman. This happened in 1955 or 1956. I was 6 or 7 years old. Okay. It was a hot summer night, and an uncle and aunt were visiting with their kids, and all of us were playing outside just off the porch, and the adults were inside, and they could see us there in the yard. I noticed lights in the sky that were not normal. They were moving back and forth over one area. I told my parents, and they said, oh, those are just searchlights. They wouldn't go look with me. They weren't searchlights, which were common, so I would have recognized them. I was a child, and I blew it off. That night, after we had all turned in and were asleep, I woke to these beings coming through our screen door into our living room. It was a hot night, so all of us kids were asleep on the living room floor on sheets. I just got one look at those things, then I passed out or something of that nature. At that time, we had not even heard of Roswell, alien beings, and stuff like that. If my parents had known, they didn't relay that information to us. We had a TV, but the reception was so bad that we didn't watch it frequently. I had no knowledge of the grays or flying saucers. When I got into my 30s and heard about Roswell and saw a picture of what the grays looked like, I was floored. That's when I knew that I had seen that. That's when I knew what I had seen that night, 25 to 30 years prior, was real. I don't know if I was abducted or not. I have no recollection of that, but I do know what I saw. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your homesteading channel that has nothing to do with homesteading. I started watching you when you were trying to be all about homesteading, Barbara. Barbara, thank you for your story, and Barbara, thank you for being here for the long haul. This channel is now over 8 years old, and try to suppress us at times as they have. Try to discredit us, others who also create content in the same genre as I do, simply because I won't join forces with them and build our business together. Well, when I don't reply to those messages, guess what happens? They come at me, and try to discredit me. Say I'm a jokester, a prankster, a fake, whatever other words that would be synonyms to those words are. They call me those things. Well, I'm not. So anyway, send me your stories, crazylake@mail.com. Again, you can go to Amazon now and find the True Haunting volumes, the Bigfoot Sasquatch Files series, all my other books, and printer Kindle. And while they do last, I still do have a limited number of most of my books in print on the Etsy store. That link is in the description box as well, and I will autograph those to you personally and stuff the envelopes and send them out. I think there's a couple hundred books left across about a dozen various titles. Thanks for your support of this channel. I am honored and privileged to be your voice. So if you've got stories that you're afraid to tell because you don't want to get ridiculed or because you have told them and you have been ridiculed, send them to me. I'll share them. I'll be your voice. If you want to be kept anonymous, I will keep you anonymous. But these stories will be told despite their best efforts to silence our truths. I'll see you for more next time from here, the most amazing, awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that has nothing whatsoever to do with homesteading. And no, I did not try to match my hat and my undershirt in this chicken coop that has quails in it behind me. Homesteading off the grid.